Ilara had grown up believing she was the weakest wolf in the Thornwood pack. It was not a secret whispered behind closed doors. It was said openly, at meals, during training, even in front of visitors. She had heard it so many times that the words no longer stung the way they once did. They simply sat inside her, quiet and heavy, like stones she had learned to carry without complaint. From the time she was a child, Ilara had struggled with things that came easily to the other wolves in her pack. She could not shift quickly. Her transformations were slow, painful, and often incomplete, leaving her half caught between forms, while the other pups around her leaped and ran on 4 legs within seconds. She could not fight. In training matches, she was pinned to the ground before she had even found her footing. She flinched at loud noises, at sudden movements, at anything that reminded her of how fragile she felt compared to everyone else. Her mother, a respected hunter in the pack, often sighed when she watched Ilara fail. It was not cruelty exactly. It was disappointment, and somehow that was worse. Her pack siblings laughed at her, not always unkindly, but often enough that she stopped expecting kindness at all. The alpha, a broad-shouldered man named Rurik, rarely looked her way, except to assign her to kitchen duty or cleaning tasks whenever the others went out on patrol. It was easier for everyone, he said, if she stayed where she could not get hurt or slow the others down. Ilara did not argue. She had learned long ago that arguing only invited more laughter. Instead, she found small ways to be useful. She was good with herbs and knew how to tend wounds. She could cook meals that made even the harshest warriors soften for a moment. She kept the den clean and organized, and she never complained, not once, no matter how many times she was reminded of her place at the bottom of the pack. At night, when everyone else was asleep, she would sit outside and look up at the moon, wondering if there was something wrong with her, some missing piece that kept her from becoming what a wolf was supposed to be. She never found an answer. She simply told herself that this was her life, and she would learn to live inside it quietly, without expecting anything more. That was the life Ilara had accepted, right up until the night the Crown Wolves came. It began as an ordinary evening. The pack had just finished their meal, and Ilara was gathering water from the stream near the training grounds when she heard the first howl. It was not like any howl she had heard before. It was deep, controlled, and strangely calm, the kind of sound that did not ask for attention, but simply took it. Moments later, 3 enormous wolves stepped out from the tree line. They were larger than any wolf in Thornwood, with thick silver and black coats that seemed to catch the moonlight and hold it. Their eyes were sharp and alert, but there was something disciplined about the way they moved, as if every step had been trained into them since birth. These were not rogue wolves wandering aimlessly through unclaimed land. These were crown wolves, the sworn guardians of the Alpha King himself. Word spread through the pack in seconds. Warriors rushed to the training grounds, weapons and claws ready, only to find that the 3 crown wolves would not stand down. They did not attack, but they did not retreat either. They circled the pack's strongest fighters, growling low, ignoring every command barked at them by Rurik and his most trusted warriors. It was clear this was no accident. The Crown Wolves had been sent ahead to scout Thornwood territory before a formal visit from the king, and something about the pack's readiness, or lack of it, had left them unsettled. No matter how many orders were shouted, the wolves refused to yield. Ilara had only come to the training grounds because she heard the commotion and could not stop herself from checking that everyone was safe. She stood near the edge of the crowd, water jug still in her hands, watching as her pack's strongest warriors failed again and again to control the situation. Then, without warning, the largest of the 3 crown wolves turned its head and looked directly at her. Ilara froze. She expected fear to rise up inside her, the same fear that always came when danger was near. But instead, something else stirred, something she had never felt before. It was not panic. It was a quiet, steady certainty, as though a door deep inside her had creaked open for the very first time. She did not think about what she was doing. She simply stepped forward, set the water jug down, and spoke a single word, calm and clear, though she could not have explained afterward where the word came from, or why she chose it. The moment she spoke, all 3 crown wolves lowered themselves to the ground at once. Their heads bowed, their bodies went still, as if some deep instinct buried in their bones had recognized her voice and obeyed it without question. The training ground fell completely silent. Every wolf in Thornwood turned to stare at Alara. Rurik's mouth hung open. Her mother's hand flew to her chest. The warriors who moments earlier had been struggling against the crown wolves now stood frozen, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Alara herself barely understood it. She only knew that the wolves before her had stopped fighting, and for the first time in her life, she had done something that no one else in the pack could do. She was still standing there, uncertain and a little shaken, when a cloaked figure stepped out from the shadows at the edge of the clearing. He had not announced himself. He had not asked to be greeted with ceremony. King Alaric had come to Thornwood quietly, intending only to inspect a border pack, before deciding whether it deserved a place under his growing protection. He had not expected to witness anything remarkable. But he arrived just in time to see an Omega, one clearly regarded as insignificant by her own pack, bring 3 of his most loyal and highly trained guardians to their knees with nothing more than her voice. Alaric knew immediately that this was not luck. He had spent his life around wolves bred and trained to obey only the highest forms of authority. Crown wolves did not submit to just anyone. Their loyalty ran deep, shaped by bloodlines and training passed down for generations. For them to yield so completely, so instantly, meant something ancient had awakened in the wolf standing before him. He stepped further into the clearing, and the crowd parted uneasily to let him through. Rurik, sensing the importance of the visitor, hurried forward, bowing low and stammering out apologies for the disorder. He tried to explain the incident away, insisting that Alara was the weakest member of the pack, prone to strange and unpredictable behavior, and that whatever had just happened was surely some kind of fluke. Alaric said nothing to Rurik at first. His attention remained fixed on Alara, who stood quietly beside the 3 wolves, unsure whether she was in trouble or not. He studied her closely, the way she held herself, the way she did not seem to grasp the weight of what she had just done. There was no pride in her expression, no satisfaction. There was only quiet confusion, as if she were waiting to be told she had done something wrong. He asked for her name. She gave it hesitantly, glancing at Rurik as though seeking permission to speak. Alaric noted that too. A wolf who commanded royal guardians with a single word should not have to look to anyone else for permission to answer a simple question. He asked her to do it again. Alara hesitated. She did not know what she had done the first time, let alone how to repeat it on command. But something in the king's steady gaze made her feel that she could try. She turned toward the wolves, took a slow breath, and spoke once more, the same calm certainty rising inside her as before. The crown wolves responded instantly, settling even more deeply into submission than they had the first time, as though her voice had grown surer, and they, in turn, trusted it more completely. A murmur spread through the crowd. Even Rurik, still catching his breath, could not find a way to dismiss what he had just seen twice. Alaric turned to his advisor, a quiet woman who had accompanied him on the journey, and asked her to retrieve the old records. Thornwood, like every pack under the king's watch, kept ancestral records dating back generations, documents most wolves never bothered to read. It took time to locate them, buried as they were beneath dust and years of neglect, but eventually the advisor returned with a worn, leather-bound book and began turning its brittle pages under torchlight. What she found confirmed what Alaric had already begun to suspect. Alara's bloodline traced back, faintly but unmistakably, to a line of wolves known as sovereigns, wolves born with the rare and nearly forgotten ability to command any other wolf, royal or common, through voice alone. It was not a gift tied to strength or speed or fighting skill. It was something deeper, something that lived quietly beneath the surface until the exact right moment called it forward. That was why Alara had never shown any sign of it before. Sovereign blood did not reveal itself through ordinary training or ordinary life. It surfaced only in moments of true crisis, when protection or command was desperately needed. Her entire life, her pack had mistaken dormant royalty for weakness, simply because her gift had never been given a reason to appear until now. Rurik's face went pale as the truth settled over him. The wolf he had shamed for years, assigned to kitchens and cleaning duties, while others trained and fought, was not weak at all. She had been carrying something far greater than any of them, waiting silently for its moment. Alaric did not offer grand speeches or dramatic declarations. He was not a king who valued flattery, and he sensed that Alara, after a lifetime of being overlooked, would not know what to do with excessive praise even if it were offered. Instead, he simply extended his hand toward her, palm open, and asked her to return with him to the capital, not as a curiosity to be studied, not as a weapon to be used, but as who she truly was. A sovereign, equal in rank and worth to a king. Alara looked at his hand for a long moment. Around her, the pack that had shaped her entire understanding of herself stood in stunned silence. Her mother's eyes were wet with tears she did not seem able to explain, whether from shame or disbelief or something else entirely. Rurik would not meet her gaze at all. She thought she might feel angry in this moment, given everything she had endured. But instead, what rose inside her was something quieter and far more peaceful. She did not need anger. She did not need revenge or apologies. She only needed to walk forward into whatever came next, carrying the truth of who she was, rather than the shame she had been taught to carry instead. She reached out and took the king's hand. As she walked away from Thornwood that night, flanked by the 3 crown wolves who never once looked away from her, she did not look back with bitterness. She looked back only once, taking in the pack that had called her weak for so long, and then she turned her eyes forward, toward a future she never could have imagined for herself. Behind her, the pack remained silent for a long time after she was gone, finally understanding that the wolf they had underestimated for years had been royalty all along, waiting quietly for the world to finally see her. And ahead of her, for the first time in her life, Alara walked forward, not as the weakest wolf in Thornwood, but as exactly who she had always been, even when no one, including herself, had known it.